happened in the 90s.
Matt was the fat kid, Steve was the black kid. Life wasn't always great, but you know what was? The 90s. Happened in the 90s. Yeah!
Said he was going to call us, tell us what it feels like.
Clear across America, the one name people still rely on is Cellular One.
Hello?
I do want to start I just feel like, Steve, we don't do it enough. We need to just shamelessly self-promote some of the stuff we got going on. So before we get lost in the sauce here, I just wanted to let people know, Happened in the 90s does have a Redbubble store where we put cool-ass 90s designs on there, and you can just print them on anything, really, and check it out. You know, I just feel like we gotta sell ourselves, Steve. We gotta get out there a little bit.
Just like this picture behind me, that's not Rick the Model Martel, that's Matt the Model Martel.
Arrogant, Steve.
Arrogance, now available on redbubble.com.
Love it. But I do, we suck at it, and I hate it. It's cringy, but you got to. That's the age we're living in. That's what we're doing, and I do think it is fun to just put designs up there that we come up with, and I will be rocking that Arrogance. I don't know, tee, maybe a hoodie. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Maybe a shower curtain.
Maybe. I mean, the Arrogance on a shower curtain, Steve. I feel like you're really making a statement too. I love that.
You really are, man. And like something I'm super late on. I wanted to do it like right around the time when it happened. Brendan Fraser, I want to give him props, man, because I've said this before, man. I love the underdog story. And Brendan Fraser, something unbeknownst to me, because honestly, I wasn't like heavy into his movies in the 90s. Like I watched them, but they're iconic. Like they have cult followings, man. The movies that he did in the 90s, and he fell off. It's just one of the things I didn't register because I was never really checking for him. But knowing what I know now of his story and how he had resilience, man, and he persisted, he came back in the game. And I don't know if you've seen The Whale, but bro, like it was kind of like Denzel in Training Day. You knew he was getting this Oscar.
So you've watched this movie?
I watched it, man, and I will not watch it again because honestly, bro, it breaks you down. It fucks me. It fucked me up to see him living this way and how this could be someone's reality. It's like a multiverse White Precious in a way.
Oh God. Okay, it's one of those. But I got to check it out. We actually almost watched it, but I do. It's cool to see him get an Oscar. A bunch of people got Oscars this year, where it was just such a cool story. Him, Short Round from Indiana Jones, Data from Goonies, that dude. And that movie he was in, that Everything Everywhere All at Once. If you haven't seen that, see that thing. That movie is so incredible. It's so much fun to watch. And the fact that both those guys got, I mean, the biggest thing in acting, dude, especially so late in both of their careers, is so cool.
Very, man. And by all accounts, nice guy, Brendan Fraser, man. Never heard anything horrible about him. He got shit on. He got dealt a bad hand, and he had to eat shit because of the whole industry thing, blacklisting and all of that.
See, I don't really understand where he went wrong, because he made like Biodome, he made Encino Man, he made those like funny little comedies in the early part of his career, but like he was in that Mummy franchise, and that was huge. I mean, there is a ride at Universal Studios about that movie franchise. It was so huge.
Well, once Dwayne got involved, it stopped becoming about Brendan Fraser's character. It became Dwayne's movie. It became his starring vehicle. Yeah. And I don't know if you're familiar with the story of him and some powerful executive basically like diddled him. He like diddled him, and like it became like a his word against the other guy's word.
You're talking about The Rock?
No, not The Rock. I'm talking about Brendan Fraser.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I was like, who the fuck diddled the rock? What is that? What Harvey Weinstein steroid
Well,
freak?
I'm just on this Brendan Fraser tirade, man,
Yeah,
and like props to him for like overcoming that, man, and killing it again.
that's crazy. I didn't know. I had no idea about that. But I always, he wasn't my favorite dude, but I always thought Brendan Fraser was fucking cool as shit, and he was always had those comedy chops too. He would throw in a little comedy there.
Yeah, and I like to see the good guy win, man. And from everyone who's worked with him around him, he's a pretty solid dude.
That's
And
awesome.
and if anything, see his speech, his acceptance speech, man. You just like everything was coming from the heart, bro.
Hell yeah.
I love it,
Damn, Steve. Coming from the fields this week. I like that.
man. It's something about recording on a Sunday, Matt. You
The
know,
Lord's
I
Day.
the Lord is closer. He's always with me, but he's closer.
Now it's the single set of footprints in the sand, Steve, because he's carrying you. He's lifting you through this episode.
At all times, man. At all times. And shout out to Maria Campos. Like throughout the last couple months, people have been sharing our stuff more, our videos, our images and whatnot. But Maria Campos, she shares the ones that really count. She shares the clips from our show. And I love that. Thank you, Maria Campos. She shares it on Facebook, a couple of them.
Thanks, Maria. Hey, Maria.
Hey,
Also,
girl.
shout out to Hector Aponte the third, I believe. Just
Hector
a great fan and a true '90s nostalgia fanatic, just like us. So I love to just shout out to him too. He's been here like since day one. I feel like.
So he is. He's definitely a day one. He's a real MVP. Hector Aponte the third, a man so nice they had to name him Price.
Nice, Steve. You're a legend. Shout out to Steve G also. Let's give him some props too.
Shout out to Matt, the model Martell. See, it's all about love today. It's something about recording on Sunday, Matt.
With Snapple's new Win Nothing Instantly game, the desire to win nothing is starting to catch on.
That's it, number 7. That's it, number 7. Way to lose, baby!
With over 1 million prizes of nothing like no rent and no phone bill hiding under Snapple caps, you'll never look at winning nothing the same way again. The best stuff is in here.
So, hey, boys and girls, this is Steve G and Mad G, What Happened in the 90s, the show where we talk about what happened in the 90s. So get out your Humpty Hump glasses and your Fab Five posters and just slam! Da, 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 da. Let boys be boys! Been waiting for that moment.
Dude, the compilation has to happen, Steve. Just the intros. We got like a whole album's worth at this point. 113. How many different? I mean, you've never repeated, I don't think.
No.
It's the
No.
free. You are the little flip of the fucking podcast world, Steve.
Check the archives. No repeats. But that's a testament to how great the 90s was, man. There's no like we still haven't even touched a lot of bangers.
Never scraped this. We haven't even scraped the surface, Steve. We're at the tip of the iceberg right now. Everything's below us right now. We got to just keep going.
Well, today, my friend, we're talking about all things March 30 in the 90s, March 30 in the 90s, March 30 in the 90s, happened in the 90s, motherfucker. Starting off in 1990, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, bro, premieres in theaters. 4 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles emerge from the shadows to protect New York City from a gang of criminal ninjas. Directed by Steve Barron, starring Judith Hogue and Elias Koteas. Here we go, Matt.
I mean, I've been waiting for this, Steve. Like, this is just such a big part of my childhood, our childhood, anybody our age's childhood. This was it. This is D-Day.
This was it.
Before we even get started,
this is how we started off.
I don't even want to get into the story yet because I found out so many facts about this movie that I'm almost 40 years old, Steve. I'm aging myself. I was 7 when this came out. However long that is, do the math, 33 years. I did not know a few of these things. And I'm just going to lay a couple on you right now, just a couple of tidbits. And this is a connection to Quentin Tarantino.
Okay, now.
Sally Menke, the editor of most of his movies, they were connected at the hip. She helped give him his style. This is her first movie that she edited on, Steve.
Wow.
A legend. This was also the highest grossing independent film of all time until Blair Witch Project came out.
This is New Line Cinema, right?
Yeah. And it could have been a bunch of places, but they all turned him down. It's crazy, man. It's crazy to think about like how huge this was and how many people were just like this isn't going to work, dude. And how what's the guy's name who directed this?
Steve Barron.
I mean, he got fired before they even finished, but he made this movie and it is a banger, you know?
It goes to show how little the industry had on the pulse of the community, man, because there were legions of us, Matt. The animated series started in 87 and this is 1990. Like, so all of these other companies like, nah, this isn't gonna sell. Bro, we didn't give a fuck. I didn't care about the quality.
Hell no.
Like, the Turtles on film, shit. Damn right, I went and saw that shit.
Dude, they could have made just an animated movie in the style of the TV show, just the cartoon, and we would have eaten it up. But when they started, like, and also everyone has to we got to, like, give a little context here. Back in 1990, there was no internet. There was no hype machine. You only got what you got. So, like, as a kid, I didn't even know this was in the works until they announced it. And when they announced it, it was like, oh, it's not a cartoon. This is a legit puppets. This is people. This is a real life like martial arts movie. I was like, it blew my mind. And I just want to show this. It's visual. Sorry for the listeners, but dude, I've shown you this in the past. But they had like these like magazines. I still have this thing. It's just a hype magazine of the Ninja Turtles movie, just filled with like set pictures, like articles and stuff, getting kids pumped to see this. So when this movie actually came out, I mean, I can still remember the theater. It was packed to the gills with kids. And to this day, it was like one of those movie going experiences where everyone's on the same page, like, and it's just one of those fun experiences. It was that, dude. It was so much fun.
And I don't know what I could even compare it to modern day times, man. As far as the hype fanfare behind it, the cartoon is already there. So there's a pre-existing fan base. And then on top of that, the sponsors. Oh my God. Pizza Hut. I know. Domino's. It might have been Pizza Hut and Domino's. You had trading cards.
Domino's was in the movie, but Pizza Hut did the ads and like had a huge like campaign for this. So that's kind of weird, but yeah, they were both in the mix.
They crushed the pizza game. They had trading cards, a video game around this time. Cereal.
The cooler, because there was the standard cartoon toys. They had these highly realistic movie versions of the toys that were like rubber. Yeah. I'm looking at them right now. I just can't get up. But dude, everything. I was sitting in that seat, dude, and they get right to it. And as soon as you you see like a little shadow glimpse of Raphael's like mask, I was like, oh. God. And it's like, you know, fuck all the bullshit. I watched this just a couple days ago. Yeah. I'll continue to say it's just a fun, good movie. It doesn't deteriorate at all.
Yeah. We love them twaddles.
I mean, do you remember your experience seeing this in the theater, Steve?
I do, man. And this was a good time. This is how we started off the decade, Matt. Like, I was already familiar with the cartoon. I had a couple toys of the twaddles, and shit, I might have had a box or two of that cereal. I could still taste it.
Yeah, dude. I was actually discussing this movie on Writer's Bagel Basket, Steve, to give a shout out to a podcast that I was just featured on with my boy Scott, who's also a 90s fanatic. He loved that cereal. And even me as a little fat kid, I don't like marshmallow cereal, Steve. Hot take, but I'm not into it.
Man, you must be
Sorry
a
about that.
terrorist.
It is. I'm actually, it's all coming
What
to fruition right now, Steve.
you don't appreciate the goodness of Lucky Charms? Like, how dare
I
you?
mean,
That's so disrespectful.
I'm a pothead, Steve. I can eat anything if I'm properly medicated, but if I'm going to a shelf and I'm just trying to pick what I want to eat, I mean, you're going to be sad because it actually is something super boring. It's a rice checks. Maybe a honey nut checks or a honey nut Cheerios, but
Honey
nothing
Nut
like that.
Cheerios. Okay.
Honey, come on. Like, we're adults,
That's
Steve.
you.
You can't be buying, you're going to get put on a list if you just go in and buy some fucking Lucky Charms.
No, you got to mix it up. But I'm just saying, like, you can't go through life without having a bowl from time to time
Oh, I mean, have some
of the
sugar
magically
cereal every
delicious.
once in a while, but yeah. And also something that Scott peeped me to, you can actually, and this is what I would recommend, you can buy the marshmallows for Lucky Charms separately now, and then just buy like your cereal of choice, maybe a Rice Chex, and then add those in to that cereal and make something a little bit better. Because it's just a jacked up cereal, Steve. So we can go toe to toe on this, but yeah, that's not what we're talking about. Turtle cereal, I'm down because it's got turtles in it, so I'm in.
Poidles.
Toidles. But this movie, Steve, right away, let's talk the look. It's a gritty movie. It shows New York in almost like a G-rated Taxi Driver like grittiness. It's a New York filled with crime. This is 90s New York. People are getting robbed, old ladies are getting their TVs stolen. People are stealing wallets, passing them to ninjas in alleyways. Shit's crazy, Steve. It's hot.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's wild out there, man. Ed Koch, is he still mayor?
I don't know. He ain't doing good. And the Foot Clan fully just, doing as much petty theft as they can do. Um, April O'Neil is a really just like the Walter Cronkite of New York journalism. She's holding, the police to the foot to the fire. She's pointing out, this crime spree that's going on. And really, to me, Steve, this is just another point I want, like a couple of facts I wanted to make. This is my favorite April O'Neil of all the movie April O'Neils. I did like this one the best.
Yeah, she held it down. Judith Hogue.
Yeah, Judith Hogue. So one cool thing about Judith Hogue, she wasn't going to do this movie, Steve, but she was working on a movie with a one Robin Williams, who was a huge fan of the Ninja Turtles at the time, and he told her, "You have to do this movie. You're making a mistake." And he is the reason that she auditioned and got this movie. So I thought that was pretty cool.
You have to do the movie. Oh
Oh my God.
my God.
I'm over here like Leonardo. Hey. But also like that's the praise for Judith Hogue. She did great in the movie. She had a cool intro into the movie world and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. But other than that, Steve, huge problem. She complained a lot about the shooting of it because it was like 6 days in a row shoots. She didn't like that. She complained about the violence. So she was actually replaced after this movie.
Right.
And she also, or the violence part of that, the complaint was also something that somebody hugely integral to this movie had a problem with, which was Jim Henson and his company. They actually were the reason this movie looks so cool. They did all the animatronics and puppetry. But after the fact, Jim Henson was not happy about this and like how much violence was in this actual movie.
Actual factual, man. He was always catered towards the smaller children, the tykes, and he thought this would leave a bad impression on their minds. Well, love you, Jim Henson, but you were wrong.
Yeah, and I mean it's not, this is a way to do violence like in properly. We see everything. There's kicks. It's a great martial arts movie. There's just no blood. And there's really no like anything that would require that. So yeah, that's a hard pass for me on this. But the shit that they did for this movie is, I mean, to this day, some of the most incredible like puppetry and physical, like animatronics, whatever you want to call that stuff. It works so well.
And we got a couple dams from Raphael, which at the time that it was like Bart's Eat My Shorts. It was like, oh my God, he's like, that's the person from the cartoons. That's the turtle from the cartoons.
I mean, he gives you a soft one because he loses a sigh in the beginning, helping save April O'Neil from some thugs. And then when he, at some other point, he actually gets in a fight with Casey Jones, which, again, another reason this movie's so good. The human actors in this are all top notch. And the guy who plays Casey Jones is a great example of that. Awesome. He does a great job in this.
Elias Koteas.
Yeah, but him and Raphael get into it, get into the mix. Casey gets the best of him, and Raphael just, I mean, he throws out a damn. And when that one came out, Steve, little Matt was screaming in the theater.
I'm not finished with you!
Because I was a Raphael guy at this time. How about you?
I've always been Donatello. Well, I take that back. I started off Michelangelo because he was the party dude. And I was a kid with no responsibility. Yo, this guy, he wants to hang out all the time and eat pizza. My kind of guy. So as I got older, I realized, you know what? Donatello does machines. Like if you don't have Donatello, and I get it, Leonardo's the leader, but if you don't have Donatello, how are you going to get the intel? And you guys rely on these gadgets a lot, man. Who's going to repair that shit?
Plus, the motherfucker has a badass weapon, too. You know what I'm saying? And I got to say, the purple little cowl thing, whatever you want to call this joint, I like it, Steve.
And I got to say, that right there also, the fact, when it came to the video games, I was using him more. Because with Michelangelo, it's like, you got to get close up to him to do the little nunchuck shit. Yeah. Leonardo would be my second one, because his was just as deadly and from distance. Raphael, you have to like really be on him to jig him with the side. You can't really
prison shank their ass.
Yeah, you gotta, man. With Donatello, you could just hit him with the hand.
And if you lose that weapon, Steve, pick up a broomstick. You're right back in the game. It's the same shit. You don't need, you can modify. But I was always a Raphael guy because he was always the guy. I like a badass dude that just like, he just walks through everybody. You gotta love that,
Of course, I appreciate them all for their iconoclastic ideologies.
Yes, and
Raphael, he gives them street presence, if that's what you mean. He's like the Beanie Siegel of Rockefeller.
He's the one, exactly. He's Beans. Everybody's all talk, but he's the one that's like, hey, let's take some action. It might not be the most intelligent action, but he's gonna get something done. Fuck all the plan and shit. Like, we got these skills. Let me go kick a guy in the face real quick. And he also has some great lines in this. So, at the time, Raphael cursing, this movie, again, it like the way it looks, they've lit these like real puppets and stuff in a way that there's no question. There was never, you don't even have to suspend disbelief, Steve. You're just watching real life Ninja Turtles just fight people, and the fight scenes are all great. They are.
Like, they still hold up, man, in 2023.
Splinter looks crazy, but still good. And as as this movie progresses, the beginning of it, we get introduced to the Turtles. We see that they're where they're living and like Splinter and stuff. And the first act is like Raphael gets his sigh. He saves April O'Neil and has to like take care of her in the Turtles' sewer home. So she becomes aware of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles very quickly in this movie. And other than a real freak out from just coming to out of unconsciousness, is really accepting and just like not freaking out a lot about the fact that she's seeing talking, yoked, ninja savvy turtles and a rat. She thinks she might have a head injury, but I'd be like thinking I'm about to melt down, or like the world, something bad's happening here, Steve. But she handles it great.
She at first it was pretty startling, but yeah, all within an hour, she's like, okay, like, you huge anthropomorphic turtles and rat. Come to my house. You want to come to my
We'll have
house?
some za.
All within an hour. She went from being scared as shit to be like, oh, you know what, you turtle men and rat guy, you're not bad. I got some Honey Nut Cheerios and pizza.
Yeah, come on, teenage yolk turtle guys. Come have some pizza. Let's hang out until dawn. They come over to April's. April's living in New York City. She owns a building or lives in a building that has her father's antique shop below, and she lives above in like some sort of loft situation. She'll be a millionaire if she could have just kept the property for a couple more decades, Steve.
But like, okay, we skipped over something too, man. Like, so when she first sees this shit, Splinter, he starts off by giving the backstory as to how everything happens. He like, look, I was my master's pet rat. I was practicing kung fu moves alongside with him. Motherfucker rat ran into his crib, killed him, and I fucking scarred his face. That motherfucker threw me on the ground, sliced my ear. And that, I think, like, gave her some comfort as the now, like, let that be me. I would hear the backstory out, but I'm like, bro, I cannot give her the fact that you're a fucking grown ass rat.
Give me the fuck
out.
I don't want to get out of here. Show me how to get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, like, okay, that's great, man. I understand. That makes some sense, but like, yeah, bro, like, this is scaring the fuck out of me.
I mean, and she has that reaction for 5 seconds, but then just eats it. She's a reporter, Steve, so I guess maybe she's had some run-ins with other mutants, possibly, or just like scum, but she befriends the turtles. Raphael saved her life.
They're besties.
Some of them might have romantic crushes on her for a little bit, which is sort of weird, but but it is what it is. They're teenagers. So we get to a point where they've saved April. While Raphael is saving her, he gets followed by the Foot Clan, who, this is the other great thing about this movie, Steve, that happens right away. The Foot Clan in the cartoon, Shredder is their boss. Cool looking guy, ninja with a bunch of razors and shit on his body. And he's got all these ninjas, right? And you think, that's fine. They're going to tailor that here. But what we see in this movie is the Foot Clan is there's Shredder. He's got a second in command named Tatsu, who's just like a thuggish ass ninja expert. He's got the Foot Clan guys in the garb, the whole shebang bang. But then the introductory, like the whole like I guess you're an intern at this point. They just collect all the youth who are just like disenfranchised, Steve. And you get in there, you get to go to this cool island where there's a warehouse, and it's basically just like a cool 90s warehouse party where, teenagers, you can smoke cigarettes, cigars, play pool, gamble. I mean, it sounds like heaven to me. I would have been there, Steve.
It's like a Walmart for pedophiles. And like it has a lot of things that like people our age at the time would have like latched onto. And it also sounds like Stefan Club from SNL. Like his descriptions, there's skateboard ramp, arcades, break dancers, roulette tables, and a guy dressed as Master Shredder.
Tell him Tatsu said come see you. So yeah, it is weird. It's a very weird vibe though, because it's like, what are you doing? Like, my question is, okay, you get there. Sam Rockwell ushers you in as like a 12-year-old, looking sweaty, looking gross. And you're like, hey, where are the cigarettes? He offers you menthol or regular. This is all awesome. Yeah. The arcade's over here, pool table's over there. Here's a place where you can play bass while people skate around you. All of this sounds great. But when is it where they're like, hey, it's all been nice. You've been smoking a lot of cigarettes, drinking a lot of sodas. You've been having a lot of fun here, but time to get in that gym and start training to fight. It's like, wait, no. I just want to smoke cigarettes and do bad things, guys.
Right. This little kid smoking a stogie.
Yeah, dude, I love all the smoking, there's kids playing poker, just like all in, just like typical, like, son of a bitch.
Always bet on black.
I'm fucking white.
Why do you sound like that?
My ass.
Yeah. Wait, you have a wife?
So, the Foot Clan, they're in New York. They've got a child army of kids that might have emphysema, but they'll fuck you up maybe. They got ninjas. They got Shredder, who looks fucking fantastic in this movie, Steve. They nailed all the stuff that they needed to nail, they did.
All the vital things checked.
And it's so like I hate to like be redundant and keep saying this, but when you're watching it, the way they've lit it and the way it's shot and all like the cutaways and the flashback scenes, there's so much style in all of it that it really is just like a great martial arts movie. It is a kids movie. It's a Ninja Turtles movie, but it's just like shot in a way where this isn't some like Nickelodeon shit. It looks dark.
And speaking of dark, we return to the lair, April and the Turtles, and they find out that Master Splinter's not there.
And the emotion that Raphael pours out of him in that scene, Steve, I mean, tell me that's not a real thing.
Well, he let out
Jim Henson was killing it. I mean, I was like, you were scared, Steve. You were scared Master Splinter was dead. When I was a kid, I was like, he's going to kill those people.
And speaking of Henson, man, Master Splinter in this movie, it has a Jim Henson touch to it. He has like a signature look for his characters, man. And like without even looking it up, you could just tell, like, yeah, he had something to do with that.
Who was doing it, Steve? Who was the puppeteer? Kevin fucking Clash.
Kevin Clash,
the man.
Elmo, and apparently these days the Chow Diddler man.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. But at the time, Kevin Clash, because also in the second movie, very confusing because Kevin Clash and Kevin Nash are in the movie. And I actually thought Kevin Nash was the puppeteer also. I was like, this motherfucker's a puppeteer, just some confusion. But, Kevin Clash in the mix, he's doing the actual like movement. And then from what I remember, there's like 3 guys doing facial robotic shit with like an animatronic thing on all these things.
Yeah.
So like the behind the scenes, and that's the other thing. Here, I always have been like, why have they not done this again? Why did they do these 3 movies this way and then stop? And it is because it's so taxing to do. Apparently these suits are very hot. And for somebody who's an actor in it, you got a head on, right? But then there's all these motors and shit. And that I think it was the guy who plays Raphael, who actually is in the movie as well as a human. He's the guy who's in the taxi cab that Raphael rolls over. And he's like, what was that? And the guy's like, I think it was a turtle in a trench coat. The guy who says, what was that is the guy who plays Raphael and does his voice and shit.
Awesome.
But he said, like, to have that head on and try to act, it was just like hearing subway noise. There were so many motors around you couldn't hear anything. And another fun fact, I'm throwing these at you fast.
As you
the
should.
Scene where Raphael gets knocked out by Casey Jones and like flies through the air into the garbage can. You can see in that when he gets up and like pulls the thing off of him, he grabs his nose. And he actually, in that scene, the guy who was playing him, that motor like busted in and broke his nose. And he's actually reacting to his nose being broken, and they just used the shot. But that's how rough it was on these guys. It was just that tough,
Damn, man. Well, I mean, you would think at this point technology has advanced to where like they don't have to go through as much turmoil to perform these roles, man.
I would think do the body. You can do the head. You can figure out just the head, but have something lit so you can do the body, put a suit on for that. Then you don't have to have all the robotics and shit. Technology is a motherfucker. They could figure it out, but there's something about having real things on a set, looking in like a real set that's just straight up practical in every way, and people acting against somebody in a suit that's real. It just like, it's never been as good as this. I used to like the second one a little bit more than this one, but this one now is my favorite. It's never going to get better than this. And they keep making these animated ones. And to me, I'm excited about all the new ones all the time when they come out. But it just, until they do a live action one, which I guess is just impractical, I just feel like it's never going to live up to this. They just nailed it way too hard, you know?
The original always gets extra points just off GP, man.
And it just is crazy. Like, as you, it doesn't like ever degrade. Like as you're watching the movie, you think like maybe there's a scene where you notice something, but the whole movie, like as they go, like we've talked about it, they save April. The Foot Clan kidnaps Splinter and destroys their house in the sewer, so they have to move in with April and figure out life. They're teenagers, right? They got to figure this out. They've never had anybody or been without their dad, basically. And so the next move is now we got to find Splinter. So as that's happening, Shredder knows there's these guys out here, these mutants. So he finds them. They destroy April O'Neil's house, furniture store thing. They almost kill Raphael. The fight scene is insane. It's also funny because Raphael has a lot of funny like lines as he's getting like, he's getting fucked with and stuff. And so this is when also like the fight scene where the Foot Clan finds him, they beat up Raphael and they like sort of destroy this building. It's a great example of how like I got so pumped up. Like these scenes, the fight scenes, so intense and so good. Even with all the comedy stuff, they throw in funny stuff, but man, the action is so good.
The little nunchuck demonstration that they did between Michelangelo and the foot soldier.
A fellow chucker, eh?
Seeing this just takes you back to a special time, man.
But like even the music, like when it gets to the action and that dramatic music starts playing, and as the scene progresses, it's like every time like they start with like some comedy and it just gets darker and darker. Like in this one, they have to like defend Raphael. He's fucked up and that's messed up, but they are doing some comedy fighting. But then they like a guy gets electrocuted, the floor collapses, a fire starts, more Foot Clan comes, then Casey Jones shows up. So there's more comedy because they're like, who the fuck is this, Wayne Gretzky on steroids?
Yeah.
But then more fun fight shit. And it's, I think that's probably, again, why this movie's so good. There's a great mix of the comedy and like the cartoonishness of the cartoon, but then they give you this dark edge of like a more 90s, just like an action movie.
And when Casey Jones pops up at the apartment, that's our first time seeing him make a decision to align himself with the Turtles, because previously we saw him on screen and he had a fight with Raphael, so they're having a beef. Like, all right, it's on sight when I see you, motherfucker. And so like the next time he encounters the Turtles, like, okay, I kind of see what's going on now. Like they're vigilantes just like me, you know what I'm saying? They trying to fight crime and corruption. Well, fuck it, like I'm with the shits, man. And Casey Jones, he's always been one of my favorite like non-turtle characters, especially in the cartoon. And the human Elias Koteas, I think he held it down. He did it justice.
I mean, if we watch the cartoon, like for me, when I watched the cartoon and like saw that character, it was just like they pulled it directly. They found a guy to be that exact dude. He killed it, and he's funny in it. He's physically seems like a guy who could fuck somebody up too. So it's believable when he's doing the action stuff. And I do like, he gets in that fight with Raphael in the beginning and then that sort of stops. But the way he finds them again is he's like, I don't even know what this guy's life is other than he's fucking people up at night with like sports equipment. But he's on like a rooftop in New York and he's diddling around with some equipment. And then he's like looking in the distance. And Raphael at this point is like on this rooftop, just, doing some karate training, just, airing it out.
Yeah, doing his dailies.
Yeah, and just, getting it in. And he sees him from a distance, like is like sort of voyeuristically just like watching him. So he watches Raphael get the ass beating that he eventually gets. And then that's what makes him go and save him, which is, I mean, stand-up dude, Casey Jones. This guy ran like 10 city blocks to save this dude at the last second. So he shows up just in time. Really fucking, I gotta say, he's with all these teenage ninja experts, but he's whooping the shit out of these foot soldiers, dude. I mean, he's killing them all.
with or without the golf clubs or the hockey sticks.
Or the
And
cricket
this
bat.
fight, they have a full-on melee in April's apartment. Shit is hitting the fan, the tables, the refrigerator, goddammit. And it gets to a point where one of the clumsy foot soldiers sets the place ablaze. The whole fucking apartment just in crumbles. Now, April is homeless, and before Casey Jones leaves the place, he hears the voicemail that April has been fired. So she's homeless and broke. She's gonna have to live with these turtles in the sewer.
Yeah, bitch, you better get that unemployment insurance quick, because you're living in New York City and now you ain't got anything. You ain't got a pot to piss in. You
But
ain't even
April
got the
doesn't even know
yellow
it.
jumpsuit. You got nothing. So Charles, her boss, has fired her. The reason being that she just will consistently not stop talking shit about the New York Police Department or their lack of movement on this crime spree. So um, we can talk about Charles and his son Danny. I don't really think they deserve too much because Danny's a twat. He's a bitch. And I don't like him. I don't like his fucking bullshit ass fashion sense or
Or his
his
hair.
or his hair or his attitude. Definitely his hair, Steve. I know he's a redhead and you know how I feel about that.
And I'm thinking maybe it wasn't Ferguson, maybe it was Danny from TMNT.
I mean, he might have stole my wallet once too. Son of a bitch.
For
I
a
don't like Danny,
Walkman.
but anyway, back to the real deal. So Casey whooping that ass, he gets out just in time through a very convenient basement like getaway door that they just, her dad had. I don't know what April O'Neil's dad was doing back in the day, but dude had some shit. He had to run. If he had to run away quick, he had like a escape hatch. It's nice.
And like I think Casey Jones kind of breaks it off to her lightly, kind of like, you kind of don't have a job. Yeah, they let you go.
Well, yeah. Once they get to the farm, because they leave, they take April's like VW Beetle van to I guess a farm that she has. Because this chick has, I mean, how much property does this chick own?
Yeah, she ain't got to work apparently.
Yeah, she's fine. But it's out in the middle of nowhere, which is great because they got 4 gigantic turtles who have to do ninja and I'm assuming eat a ton of food too, because they're growing turtles. They're out on the farm now. And the first thing Casey Jones does is tell her that the van that they have, it's fucked. So they're stuck. And she's like, well, I gotta walk to a farm miles away just to call my boss. And he's like, let's save yourself a walk. You don't need to. And she's like, what do you mean? He's like, your boss fired you. Sorry about that. And she takes it bad, but it's not his fault. I mean, he was whooping ass and playing secretary, Steve. What do you want this man to do?
Yeah, I couldn't have stopped your apartment from setting ablaze.
I mean, I can hit a home run. You want me to do that? I'll hit a dinger out of here right now. Let me just get a rock real quick. I'm going to throw a football over those mountains, April.
You could be broke, homeless, and dead. You welcome, bitch.
Yeah. So now the turtles, they were already without a father, but they're ass out at this point. They're listless. They don't know where to go. So now they have to sort of cope. And this is a cool scene. This is like that cool montage or like that cool segment of the movie where they have to just sort of recharge. All the brothers have their different ways of coping. Raphael's near dead. So Leonardo is just hanging out near the death tub that Raphael's in. Donnie's hanging out with Casey Jones. Great rapport with Donnie and Casey Jones. They're just giving each other fucking the dozen, Steve.
They're talking
Flips, whatever, whatever, freakazoid and shit, whatever you want to say. They're giving each other the business. They're working on an old truck. And Michelangelo, I don't even, what was Mikey doing, Steve?
I think at some point they were playing Trivial Pursuit.
Oh, that's what, yeah, they were playing. But one funny thing that I actually found, because there's a lot of like scenes that were taken out of this movie because they were too dark. They don't show it because what his scene actually was before he comes out and does the little turtle wax thing where he's like, they're like, oh, do you need some like, icy hot or whatever? And he shows the turtle wax. What he was doing was crying in the barn and he destroys a punching bag, like rage punching the punching bag and then destroys the wall with like a kick. And that was like deleted because they thought the movie was too dark.
Wow. Outside of the kid smoking a Starbucks.
Yeah, dude. So they're all dealing with this. They're also training. They're trying to like regroup, but still like, we're the turtles. We got to maintain this standard of excellence that Splinter instilled in us. So everybody else is kind of fucking around. Leonardo, the consummate leader, decides to go off on his own and sort of meditate, Steve. Do what his dad did. Do what Splinter did. And in doing that, he has like this vision of Splinter, who at this point now is in Shredder's
Lair.
rave layer, and he's just chained to a chain link fence somewhere. But he like sort of spiritually is like Leonardo, and then that sort of makes them aware that he's alive. Then they do a real life seance. They're also into like satanic sort of rituals, Steve, because they do another meditation and have a full on shared vision of Splinter sort of, I guess, just telling them that they've leveled up mentally. I don't know.
Well, after Trivial Pursuit, they were going to play Ouija. But that was another deleted scene.
Hey, man. Yeah, I also shout out to Corey Feldman, who's Donatello's voice in only this movie. But I love me some Feld Dog, Steve. So just shout out to the Feld Dog himself.
Feld Dog with those feel-good 80s movies, man. God bless you. And you know what? They only gave Donatello the celebrity voice. Because you know why? Because he's the best.
Because I do machines, Steve. And I nailed the choreography.
That was some choreography.
Dude, I just okay, I'm gonna be honest with you, Steve. I've been working on the Corey impression because he now as a human being now is very weird. So I used to listen to a podcast and still do that did a very deep dive on this guy, and I've gotten very good at my Corey Feldman. So
dude, I will fucking take a shot of Mountain Dew for that.
Choreography. Are you hearing me, Steve? Choreography. I took a $1,500 paycheck for this. Do you believe that?
You took a $15 million class on choreography. That's what you took, because I'm stopped me in my tracks.
I will get into Corey Feldman later, in a different podcast. But the man's a legend. Wow. I'm going to see him live because he performs live music of his own live music, Steve.
Bro, he's better off just talking. I want to hear your stories. Fuck your music, Corey. But love you though.
Yeah, I mean, we're here for you, Corey. But after this, the turtles have this emotional seance where they know Splinter's alive. They know what they have to do. Splinter basically tells them that he has nothing left to teach. They figured out the ultimate lesson, that they can overcome anything as a unit together as brothers. And that's, I mean, I did, Steve. I'm going to be completely honest with you. In that scene when Michelangelo sheds a tear at the end, I welled up. When Raphael is talking to Splinter near the beginning and he comes home angry and Splinter's like, he just basically tells him he loves him, I almost cried. This movie gets you in the feels, Steve. And by this point, you're like, they need a win. And the Turtles get the win that sort of gets them back in the game. And I love when they come back after this, April and Casey are sort of about to fuck, basically, at this point in the movie. They're having a little romance. They're on the porch, and then the Turtles show up like at dusk, and they're like, we gotta go home. And they all just like pose, like they're like, let's go.
We got a mission.
So yeah, so now we're in the third act. We're going back to New York, and everybody's excited. Casey's super excited because they get back. Even it's raining. He's like, we're back in the city. Fuck all that country shit. And they pull up to like a building and he's like, man, you guys living good. You live in this building. And they're like, you coming down here? Nah, dude. And then he looks down and they're going in the sewer. And this is where I tap out as a human being, Steve. I'm good. You guys get in touch whenever we got to go after somebody, but I'm going to go get a hotel. I'm not swimming in shit down there, fellas.
So this is why you guys always smell like urinals.
Yeah. I never thought of that. Oh man, they must stink, Steve. It's like, thanks for saving me, but Jesus fucking Christ. You get this guy a fucking bar of soap.
Yeah, right guard is for both sides, pal.
Yeah, so it's raining, it's pouring in New York. The turtles are back. They go into the sewer. We cut back at some point. We cut back and forth to Shredder. He's still sort of pissed off. As always. Shredder's never like just does he have a good day where he's just like, man, I'm feeling great.
No.
Everything's
The
good.
best-
No.
No, the best villains live this shit, Matt. And Shredder, this needs to be said. He is the GOAT of villains. I love Joker.
Listen, the
I like
name,
Penguin.
Steve. Just the name alone. A guy called Shredder who's coming after you. I don't give a fuck if it's a little kid. Shredder's coming. I'm running away.
Like, you want to save the cat? Shredder wants to kill the cat and put it in the microwave and make chow mein.
Oh, by the way, dude's covered in razors and sharp ass fucking accoutrement, looking like a fucking like he's about ready to make some coleslaw. Steve.
That part. And in the cartoon, he had the purple and silver joint that looked like a Macho Man, Macho King protege. I fucks with it. And voiced by James Avery, GOAT.
Yeah, we're here. Fuck, he don't even need Krang. I never even got that. If I'm Shredder, I'm like, fuck are you gonna add to the equation? I'm Shredder, okay?
I'm voiced by Uncle Phil.
Yeah. And I fucking Krang. The only brain I'm getting is some rando after I fucking take over New York, Steve. So Shredder in this, though, looks a fucking amazing. Yeah. And he's got this guy Tatsu who's, really just sort of a classic ninja expert. Yeah. He's odd job stretched out. And he's quick to whoop a kid's ass, because we see that in the training sessions. He'll whoop a dude's ass. But at this point, he's like, look, man, we got all these kids stealing shit. We got a warehouse full of shit, dude. You want a TV? You want some Coke? There's probably some back there someplace. There's cigarettes. Why are you so fucking pissed off about this rat and these whatever this is? Like, let's chill out. And he's like, Shredder's like, there's something about what you've told me about how they fight. Something from the past. And like, everybody's focused on the past, Steve. You can't let it go.
Yeah. You should make a podcast about it, Shredder. And and so we see the tie-in. Well, previously, we had already seen the tie-in from Splinter's backstory, but now we're seeing from Shredder's perspective, it's like, yeah, this is the reason why I'm after that rat.
Fuck anybody doing it. He's like show enough, dude. He's like, oh, you're doing ninja stuff in this city? Nah. And you're doing my kind of ninjutsu? Let's figure who out these people are, because it might be that guy who owes me some money from back in the day. Because there's only a few people that know this shit, and I killed one of the main dudes, so. And his chick.
Ninja like the ninja I got.
So he sends I'm trying to figure out because they get back to the city. Oh, okay. So another great thing is, as they're going into the sewer, they're going back to, I think it's just their crib, or maybe a side place that they hang out at. They get there and they're walking around. First, they give this funny scene with Casey Jones because he's claustrophobic. So Donatello notices this and he's like, you're claustrophobic. And Casey Jones says he's like, hey man, I never even fucking looked at a dude. You want a fist in the mouth?
Saying I'm sweet? Fucking turtle.
Yeah. So Casey Jones, he's like, claustrophobia. I'm fine. But I don't like all this. It's dirty. So I'm gonna go up and sleep in the truck. So fuck all y'all. Hit me up whenever you're back up, top side. So he goes to sleep in the truck. They go into their little lair, but Danny, the little bitch kid, he's run away. He's constantly going back and forth between Shredder and this place. And another funny line is, one of my favorite Raphael lines is, they hear some rustling. They open up this cabinet that Danny's hiding in, and he's like, don't shoot. And Raphael's like, I don't think it's loaded, kid. And, I just love that. He's that type of guy, Steve.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But Danny Danny, like now he's coming to. He wants to be recruited by the underworld, but at the same time, when he connects with Splinter, and he gets his backstory, it's like, oh, now I see what I must do. Stop being a douchebag. That's a starter.
Yeah, he's like, wait, Shredder said he's my dad. We're family. He's my
Yeah.
dad because he has a bad relationship with his dad, Bill or whatever. What's his name?
Bob Weiss, who used to coach the Atlanta Hawks. That's who he fucking looks like.
Yeah.
And I
He's got a bad relationship with his dad, who is the dad from Alf, basically. And he's got a he's a shitty kid, Steve. So, but he does get through to him, and like, so he has access to this rave layer that Shredder has. So he is like finding Splinter, talking to him, and then just like, like peacing out for a few days. Fuck helping this thing. I just want to get a couple pieces of advice, go hang out in a sewer, beat off a couple of times in this weird like homeless place I found that maybe I'd be concerned staying there, but he's cool with it.
it doesn't matter. They got Narc on arcade. Shit. They got a place, a cot in the back. But this is one of the several reasons why Danny's a gullible, dumb piece of shit. So he has a real dad, a dad that's there, present. His dad is successful. He has a career, and he just wants his son to do right. Fuck everything dad's saying. He sees a guy in the underworld where all these other like ragtag teenagers and tots and shit are smoking. I'm your father. Okay, all right, then that's my father. Despite the fact having a real dad. All right.
Well, his dad doesn't like him, Steve. His dad isn't hanging out stealing shit with him like he just can't have that experience. Shredder's cool with it. Shredder gives him cigarettes. Okay. His dad ain't hooking him up with fucking Newports.
Sure, I'll smoke a bag of that. So fuck what dad's saying. I could smoke Newports in the underworld. So after he claims that Shredder is his dad, he doesn't pay attention to anything that his sperm producer who brought him into the world. He ignores all that shit. But this anthropomorphic fucking human-sized rat, he just buys into everything he's saying. Tell me more. And that's just, and I get it. It's a fictional story, but like from someone who didn't grow up with his dad around, like, Danny, fuck you.
Yeah. And those flashbacks, though, when Splinter's telling a story and they cut to those like very dark, shadowy flashbacks, super cool. And when he tells his story, what Danny does realize that makes him flip on Shredder is like, oh, this bad guy who you said killed your master and sliced your ear off is that guy, this Shredder dude. Because he's called Oroku Saki. That's his actual like government name. Shredder's his alias, Steve. So Splinter tells him all that. And I do have to say one thing. Splinter, Shredder had that fight or the little mix up back in the day where Splinter's master was killed. He gets his ear cut off. The level of precision and like danger that he almost had his whole little rat head lopped off. I mean, how sharp was that blade, Steve? I mean, incredible. Is that a Cutco knife? Is that...
What were those companies that would try to get people like recruited?
Cutco. It's like that Cutco? Frank Reynolds shit. Here, let me cut through a shoe. And it's just some guy like cutting up a watermelon in your house with a sharp knife, Oroku Saki style. But yeah, so Danny actually comes around. He wants to help out Splinter, but then because he's such a dumbass, he gets caught by Shredder hanging out with Splinter, and he's like, where have you been? Because now Danny's on the radar. He's been snitching and snatching all over the place. And Shredder has like I guess like a ninja lie detector. Because Danny's like, hey man, like, no, I've just been hanging out. And he does like this weird like thing where he goes down his body and just, he finds the drawing in his pocket, Steve. Maybe he saw the outline. I don't know, but that's some ninjutsu magic shit that I appreciate.
And we just skip over logic again, because that's all it took from what I remember, man. He just saw the drawing. It was like, okay, it's time to make the move.
Yeah, I mean, that's all it took. And I guess they knew where to go because they had already found the layer. So he finds the drawing. He's like, yo, Tatsu, go fuck these turtles up and just kill this rat too. And actually, that's what he says. He's like, fuck you. You can't do this shit. You fucked up a bunch. I'm going to go fuck these turtles up myself with the squad. You kill the rat. Okay. So that happens. Casey Jones actually saw Danny leave the turtle lair and followed him. So now he's at the Foot Clan like warehouse. He comically gets a Foot Clan outfit in just like a very video game way where he just like snatches a guy, pops up, has the whole get up on, immediately finds Danny in this vast warehouse place. And Danny's like, dude, we got to go save Splinter now. He's going to get killed. So they do that. And this is where a real logic you see on camera, Steve. Casey Jones walks into the place where Splinter's like chained to. This guy's already seen turtles. So I guess he's like a little bit he's used to it.
He's not shell-shocked.
You are correct, sir. Yes.
And but Casey Jones at this point, nothing's gonna faze him. He sees Splinter, a 5-foot rat who's clear he can talk, and he looks, he goes, and just continues. Like that's all it takes. That's the suspension of disbelief, Steve. Is like, hey, is that a giant rat that's talking to me and knows my name? Yeah, fuck it. All right, let's go. This thing smells.
Everyone, I think April was the only one that was like, whoa, what the fuck? Because even the cab driver, like, yeah, I think it was a turtle in a trench coat.
These people, I guess New York in the night, you're just used to everything. So you're just like, at least it's not some guy trying to kill me, I guess.
Yeah,
thank you.
Must be one of those party kids.
So this is the end of the movie. And this last bit, Steve, cements it as one of the best action movies in my life. One of my favorites. This whole thing was so great. So the Foot Clan go. It's like a swarm of ants. The turtles are waiting for them. They've got April O'Neil. And they kind of set up they get set up. And the Foot Clan shows up. And they just start fucking Foot Clan. And this is the part of these movies I love. Because there's always like, they just fuck up like these cronies. And you get like 5 good minutes of just great martial arts with the Ninja Turtles fucking people up before shit gets real. So that's all it is,
But the final showdown, Shredder, he basically has a hostage situation. It's like, drop your weapons. And, they're trying to save the day. They want to eliminate as many casualties as possible. So they all drop their weapons. They just throw them over the ledge of the top of the building, which is where they are. And everyone's, except for Michelangelo's and I guess Donatello's, he's the one held hostage.
No, not Donatello. It's so they leave the sewer after they've fucked everybody up. The fight goes to the streets. The streets become top of a building someplace. So the Ninja Turtles beat up a shitload more of Foot Clan. Casey Jones and Danny show up with we actually skipped a bunch. So let me just go back. Let's rewind a little bit. Casey Jones saves Splinter, right? But as they get Splinter unchained from the fence, Tatsu, the local tough, Shredder's number 2, shows up, and Casey and him get in the mix in front of like all the Foot Clan kids, including Sam Rockwell. So Casey gets his ass whooped. Danny watches like a bitch, does nothing to help, just holds Splinter up. Tatsu almost beats Casey Jones, but Casey gets a drop on him. How? With a golf club, Steve, with a piece of athletic equipment right up his alley. He beats Tatsu. He hits him with a golf shot that makes him fly physically in the air like 10 feet. Probably killed the dude.
He's mean with that.
And then he's surrounded by 20 teens, almost probably Sam Rockwell's definitely 18, Sam Rockwell's like, let's get him. And Casey Jones doesn't have to fight anybody. He big dicks him. And that just gives him some good, like, solid fatherly advice. He's like, look, you think this is family? You think that guy over there's family? He's like, fuck that. This is family. You fucks.
Fuck your family.
So he basically he gets everybody to just leave this lair, and he shows up at the final fight too. So he's fucking people up. April O'Neil comes out of the sewer. She's there. The Foot Clan's getting their ass whooped, and eventually we're on top of a skyscraper. Splinter's out. He's good too. They got him out. So Shredder eventually shows up in the most cool, dramatic way in a slow mo. It's like he's flying
He's like he's
almost.
hovering on some Yoda type shit.
He's Shredder. And basically, for 5 minutes, the Ninja Turtles, one at a time or two at a time, try to whoop his ass, and he gets the best of them every time. And eventually, he has like a huge like spear thing, and he gets Leonardo like where he's ready to fucking make some turtle soup. He makes him throw the weapons away, like you said. And then as he's about to kill Leonardo, he's like, "You guys are idiots. You threw your weapons away? You could have rushed me and probably killed me, but all right, I'm going to kill all of you. Let me kill this guy first." And then Splinter shows up. I don't know how he climbed a ladder, Steve. This thing, malnourished, dirty as all shit.
He's like a Yoda hologram, bro. Like he just materialized out of thin air. And Michelangelo, his nunchucks get caught on like one of the rails just off the ledge. So,
yeah, like the ladder steps on the side of the building.
Yeah, and I don't think Leonardo threw his away because he was still under attack. Like he was talking about the other three, like Raphael, Michelangelo, Donatello, like they threw their shit, and he still had his, from what I remember. So yeah, Shredder, he charges after Splinter upon appearance, man, because it's on sight. Like we are ops.
Because and also this is another one where it's like these people don't like if I see what these mutant things and this rat. Already, I think I probably like it'd be like a situation where I instantly lose my mind and I'm never this like I can't talk about anything else. This guy killed a dude back in the day. He's probably killed many people looking at him, right? He killed a dude. He was attacked by a very small, normal sized rat that scratched his face. He probably forgot about that for the most part, other than he has to look at this. He's like, man, fuck that rat, dude. That rat, that's some bullshit. At least I killed that dude. But then he sees a rat like human size talking to him, and Splinter's like, I know who you are, dude. Fuck a Shredder, you're a Rokusaki. And he takes his mask off, touches his scars, and when I come to the realization that the rat that I thought I might have killed back in the day after I murdered a dude is now a talking, walking, full-size rat that can maybe kick my ass, I'm going to be like, and like jump off the building, Steve. Fuck it.
Well, he's had his whole life to think about this. And he's played it out in so many scenarios. Every time he looks in the mirror, just like you said, man, he's reminded of this shit. So it's like, man, I wonder if did I get him?
No bitch wants to fuck me now, man.
Where's that little motherfucker? I don't think I got him.
Yeah, I think I just saw a little piece of ear on my sword, but I thought it'd be a little blood or something. But
yeah, what if that motherfucker actually grew up, moved to New York, and adopted 4 turtles? Some radioactive shit fall on him, and all the motherfuckers can talk. I wonder if that happened.
He taught these motherfuckers how to do that shit. Oh, there's no amazement. In fact, he's like, you know what? Fuck all that. You clawed you made me less beautiful. So the most like he ain't catching anybody off guard, Steve, and he doesn't catch Splinter off guard because as he's charging him, fuck all the trading, fuck whatever. All it takes is just a little sidestep, Steve. A little. That's it.
Ankle breaker. He hit him. He hit him with that juke.
And Splinter, Splinter also, he's holding the dude up. Got to be at least $150, Steve. I don't know what Splinter weighs, but this dude, he's got some upper body strength. He's holding him fucking chucked up, and he's giving him a fucking. He's like, look, you thought you were the shit, nah, and you thought you got over on my boss, but I'm getting some revenge. He like makes this whole speech, and fucking Shredder. I mean, he's got knives all over the place. He pulls another one out, tries to fucking jackknife him. And Splinter, I think he was going to do it anyway, if I'm being honest. He just lets go, and Shredder goes into a garbage truck. And then what I can only call homicide, Casey Jones kills him, Steve. I mean, it's a straight-up homicide.
That was conveniently placed there. I don't know if this is Casey Jones' superpower, but he had the foresight to think like, I'm looking at this truck. Maybe I should move it close to the edge just in case Shredder gets thrown off.
Well, he used it to back up into a ladder so that he like took a bunch of Foot Clan off of it so they couldn't get up to the top of the building. So practically, Steve,
Yeah.
It was just he has the glow. He just has that intuition, and he also has a cold-blooded nature that when a guy falls in the back of a garbage truck, fuck being arrested, fuck proof, all he does is he's like, oh, that was convenient, oops.
Man. But as we'll find out later, maybe a year later, he didn't finish the job.
Yeah, Shredder. But like, what could have happened that he survived that, Steve? I saw a helmet smashed. I saw what I thought was some blood on the side of the truck there, but for somebody who was the father figure to the baker's dozen youth that are on the street, none of them give a fuck about that. They're like, no, nobody says shit, Steve. Sam Rockwell, all he does is stain his shirts a little more yellow with the pit stains.
Well, they didn't really care about Shredder. They just liked the fringe benefits that came with it. Do my arcade coins still work? Okay, great.
Yeah.
It's fun knowing you.
Yo, did anybody get all those cigarettes that we had over there? Because we need to get those out before the cops show up.
Like the Swedish fish supply, that's still intact? All right, cool. Right next to the stogies? All right, awesome.
So now Shredder's dead. I mean, we think he's dead. He's defeated. The Turtles, Splinter, they're up on the top of the building. They're loving life. They've won. They're back together, reunited. The cops show up, and they go right to Sam Rockwell, who, I mean, these Foot Clan kids, none of them are like, these kids would not make it in the wire, Steve. These are not loyal people, Steve. Danny, he'll go back and forth 5 times before he makes a decision. Sam Rockwell, he's like, the cop comes up and is like, what's going on here? He's like, go here. He gives him an address. I would have just slowly backed away and just hope nobody watched or saw me, Steve.
Maybe Splinter was all their fathers because they're rats.
Yes.
But that's it. And then Casey Jones, it all wraps up so nicely at the end. April, she survived everything. Charles shows up. Danny melts in his arms like a little bitch, like he should have months ago.
It's Dan now.
Yeah. They have their little thing. Then Charles gives April, I mean, there is no negotiation process. He gives her job back. She demands a bunch of stuff. He gives it all to her. And then April just starts putting on makeup. She's got a report to do. And she lays a little smooch on Casey Jones. And we all know what's going to happen later that night, Steve.
Oh, of course, man. They got to have a love interest in this action flick. And, it was so long since I had seen this movie, man. Watching it yesterday, I was like, man, at some point, Casey's going to beef about April because one of these guys just had the hots for it. And then it's like, I'm kind of glad they didn't cover it or have that like it just became a thing where it's like, we're the Turtles and this is our thing. Like, okay, like you're the only one with the fucking human penis. So like, we get it, bro. So like, I think the fact that they didn't have that a thing that makes this movie even greater.
Yeah, I just think you don't got to cover that romantic aspect. We don't got to go into the bestiality aspect because they're in New York, Steve. There's some desperate woman who's inevitably going to fuck one of them, but we don't got to get to that yet. That's in Ninja Turtles 4, Secret of the Ooze.
Does it still have its shell or no?
Where's it come out of? I thought that was your tail.
So they didn't cut the shell off at birth?
Hit me with just splatter me with all that gobbledygook.
Man,
make some turtle soup on me, you little fucking slut.
Gobbity goo goo ga. And also in 1990, on March 30th, Opportunity Knocks premieres. 2 con men hide out in a house while the owner is away. One of them assumes the identity of the absent house sitter when the owner's relatives come to visit, only for further complications to set in. Directed by Donald Petrie, starring Dana Carvey, Todd Graff, and Julia Campbell, and Robert Loggia.
Robert Loggia. The Loge.
Tony, you rat bastard.
Tony. This movie sounds like 8 movies I saw in the 90s that either involved like remote controls of a kid with a kid or, some other level of comical kid violence. But maybe was this good, Steve? Did you check it
I didn't
out?
get it. I would have because love Dana Carvey. This was actually his first starring role in a movie. Man, it came out in 1990, which was, I believe, his third or fourth season with SNL at the time. And I like some Robert Loggia.
I got nothing but friends.
But yeah, I couldn't find it on my websites for shit like that or YouTube. I think it's available to buy, but I don't do any of that, man. Um,
If I want
it
Dana
didn't.
Carvey, I'm going to Wayne's World, Steve. I'm going right. And I did watch that recently and it stood up. So shout out Dana
Oh,
Carvey.
that was a star-studded cast, man. And this gave Dana Carvey an opportunity to do his impressions. But also in 1990, A Side Out premieres. A law student comes to California for the summer and ends up playing professional volleyball. Directed by Peter Israelson, starring C. Thomas Howell and Peter Horton and Courtney Thorne Smith. Um,
A
I didn't.
volleyball movie. This sounds more of like an 80s vibe. Oh God.
Yeah, and C. Thomas Howell, he hadn't been the same since he did that movie where he was in blackface, and this followed that. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
You mean the movie where he did blackface?
Yeah,
Head of the, it's not head of the class. I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
yeah,
I know what you're talking. Everybody that was on, and also weirdly, that was on Comedy Central so much, like in the early
it was.
'90s.
It
Man, what
totally
was that
was.
called?
I
Soul
actually have
Man.
that on Soul Man. Yep, and I have that on DVD solely for the purpose of just like look at this catastrophe.
He had to get into college, Steve. He had to get into college. And in this,
Horrible.
I'm
Just
assuming
like
he had to, he had to shred, he had to fucking get on those gnarly sand, that hot sand, and just hit some fucking spikers in. God. You know
it's
what's weird
horrible.
though? Volleyball was huge in the early 90s. I think I had a Nintendo game that was beach volleyball.
I did too. I know exactly which one. It was a two-person team player or two-person team game.
Yeah. And dude,
Yep.
honestly, the vibe of like the was what I see behind you, just like that yellow, some blues. I don't remember what that was called, but yeah, for whatever reason, people were just into shitty, dumbass fucking sports like volleyball.
But that NES game goes ham sandwich still to this day, bro.
Man, what was that called? I'm gonna get. We'll have to look that up. Shout out to
You
that
have to.
game. I love that game.
Me
And
too.
also, I lived near like in Hermosa Beach, Manhattan Beach area when I lived in LA, and beach volleyball is still very much a huge thing. Very bizarre. Never got it.
Well, I mean that's the culture out there when in Rome.
Greased
But
up
in
hotties, though. I guess I do get it now that I said that.
and Side Out, as you would imagine, I believe it sucked. It got all bad ratings, man. But also in 1990, Baghdad Cafe debuts on CBS, and it starred Gene Stapleton and Whoopi Goldberg. Lasted 15 episodes, 2 seasons, and as you'd imagine, yeah, man, shit show. It got it,
Shit show.
it got rave reviews for the acting. I mean, it's Gene Stapleton and Whoopi Goldberg. It's the lady from Archie and Whoopi, like, oh Whoopi, oh Baghdad Cafe.
Why is it
Oh.
called Baghdad Cafe, Steve?
I guess there was a movie called Baghdad Cafe, and the series is based off of that loosely.
Okay.
But it's also on CBS called Baghdad Cafe with Gene Stapleton and Whoopi Goldberg.
Hop of
Oh,
shit.
Archie.
According to Steve, hop of shit.
Pop a shit. 15 episodes, 2 seasons.
Ouch.
Okay. Yeah.
I thought
But
that
in
was
19,
Charlie's mom from It's Always Sunny, honestly.
it looks like it. Charlie's mom was actually was it the lady from Pee-wee's Playhouse?
Oh, yep, you're
Yvonne,
right.
Miss Yvonne.
Mm-hmm.
But in 1993, Onyx releases their debut album, Back the Fuck Up.
One of the angriest hip hop groups of all time. What was the one guy's name? There's one there. Well, both of what?
Sticky
Educate me, Steve.
Fingers.
Sticky
Sticky
fingers.
Fingers.
I have
I've
one
been
good
told
story
no.
about him. Who's the other? Who are the other people? Like, who are we talking here? I don't
Well,
want to talk out of turn.
well, the main two that I always remember was Sticky Fingers and the guy from Moesha. He was also in Sunset Park because he kind of branched off and focused more on like acting. He would still do the rapping.
What's that guy's
And
name? Fredro or something?
Fredro Starr, yeah.
Sticky Fingers. He went on to do like he actually was like a TV Blade. Like he had some acting. I don't think it was a good
He did.
show, but you know, he did some shit. But
He
I
was
do
the
have one funny story about Sticky Fingers, Steve. That's one of the greatest like coked up moments ever caught on camera ever. I believe it was the Beef franchise. Somewhere
okay.
they followed him around for enough time that he was clearly just yacked the fuck out. And he goes on this rant and starts talking about, yo man, I'm developing this board game and it's just ghetto Monopoly. And he has like he has it, he's like has it there to show. I was like, damn, this dude's coked up and having like, it was true coke energy on film, Steve, because he had bad business ideas and just a lot of uh
Hoodopoly. And you know, Sticky Fingers was also Debo's flunky on Next Friday.
hell yeah, man, my ass be hurting, Debo.
Yeah. Shut up, fool.
Shut up,
But
little girl.
but back the fuck up. This is the one with Slam, and this is still fourth grade for us, man. This is late in the year for us in grade school, man. And this was the anthem, Summer of '93, one of the many anthems. I remember getting the single for this as well as the single from Lords of the Underground's release of Here Come the Lords, which also came out in 1993. And the single from that was Chief Rocka. I don't know if you remember that, but that was like seen a lot on MTV, on the Box channel, and it was a hot single, man. If you never heard about Lords of the Underground, this Chief Rocka, that's their one. They have a lot of other ones, especially from this album. Just like an underground early '90s hip hop, man.
I remember the name, and I gotta say, the name, fantastic. It makes me want to check them out just because it sounds epic as fuck. Who are these? Like any of the like, who's in it? Is this people you would know, or is it just these are the Lords of the Underground? That's all they did.
This like they didn't break out as solo stars, but Chief Rocker, come on, Chief Rocker, number one, Chief Rocker, boom shakalaka, yo, to come to Chief Rocker, come on.
I'm gonna
Doesn't
check it
ring a
out,
bell.
Steve. It doesn't ring a bell. It sounds good though. Yeah, you made me want to
It's
listen to it.
it's Do It All and Mr. Funky,
Mister
based out
Fun.
of
I want to be Mr. Funky, Steve.
Newark, New Jersey, man. This is around the time like New Jersey was coming out with a lot of heat. Naughty by Nature, Lords of the Underground, Red Man, of course, and Chief Rocker, man, like that and Slam. I actually bought those two singles at the same day. I shit you not, man. When I would like have pennies and shit saved up, I was like, man, when I'm an adult, this is gonna be easy. Just save my pennies and I can buy things. But those singles, I believe, only cost like $3, $4 back then at Sam Goody.
Yeah, it was. I remember buying a couple of like just like little LPs and shit like that. I don't remember how much they cost, but it is funny you could just buy one song.
Yeah, good times, man.
It's
But
that
in
good.
1994, the sequel to my favorite sports movie of all time came out in theaters, Major League Two. The Indians are now a World Series contender, but last year's hunger is now replaced with complacency and bad decisions by the new owner, threatening to tear the team apart. Directed by David S. Ward, starring Charlie Sheen, Tom Berenger, Corbin Burnson, Dennis Haysbert, James Gammon, Omar Epps, Bob Euchre, and David Keith.
I mean, I love this franchise. I think they went past this and maybe it got a little wacky, like straight to video.
Back to the minors.
Yeah, but I mean, Tom Berenger, Sheen, Corbin Burnson, I believe that guy's name is.
Yeah.
How much cocaine did you think they did on this set? I've never even thought about that, Steve.
Duh. Winning.
Especially with a young Charlie Sheen, fresh off of Hot Shots and all of that shit.
GW Chalker.
This is the second time, or actually the third time him and Tom Berenger performed together, of course, from Major League One and Platoon.
That's a banger. Check out Platoon if you haven't seen that. And that movie features a lot of stars. Who's the other guy? The weird dude. Willem Dafoe's in that shit as a
Willem
badass.
Dafoe. And
That was when Charlie Sheen was like a real legit dude though, because that's an Oliver Stone movie, right?
Platoon, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, he was, and even he was like sort of going comedic here, and he was in like other things. He was in was it Ferris Bueller's Day Off? He was like in it for 5 seconds as like sort of a comedy bit.
Yeah.
He did Hot Shots too. He was doing those in the 90s, but I like this one. I would rent from the fucking library nonstop, Steve.
And this one still holds up, just like the original, man. It's been a while since I've seen this one, but I remember that he went corporate by Major League Two. Charlie Vaughn, he had gone corporate. He was getting sponsors, and he had a corporate girlfriend who was going to like kind of a Stephanie McMahon. You get with me, I can help you elevate in the game. And over time, he's like, you know what? I'm losing my soul. Like, this isn't me. I need to get my mohawk and shit back intact. I'm the Wild Thing. This is what I'm known for. And realistically, if you're an athlete of his stature, the companies will come to you. Look at Dennis Rodman. Like, the more outlandish he be, like, here's a Nike deal. Here's this deal. He had a MTV show for a while. So like, if you're that talented of an athlete, you don't have to change your persona or shit like that. Just don't do that John Morant shit. That'll really fuck you up.
Also, in Cleveland, they're gonna love this. Some guy that's like a party dude, they would love that shit.
We live for that.
Also, Tom Berenger playing the guy who's playing on like the most busted ass knee. He has to put like 80,000 pounds of ice on his body to survive a game. He's on his way out. Is this one where fucking Sheen fucks Corbin Burnson's wife too, and there's like a whole dust up, or is that the first one?
That's the first one.
Okay, my bad. But I do like the coach in this too. The guy who's always like, the only thing I remember him going is going Vaughn constantly. That's all I remember. But
he's my favorite fictional coach in all of the sports movies, man, because he's a straight shooter. He's got like that Stone Cold Steve Austin, like, yeah, I tell it like it is. You suck. You fucking suck. We're gonna send you back down. And he don't give a fuck. But in this one, he got a heart attack, and so Tom Berenger, who was on his way out, he becomes the manager, and like he has like personal ties, and that's what the guy was telling me. He's like, you know these guys, you've been around this game for quite some time, and you know I'm gonna have to sit out for the rest of the season. And like he's cheering them on from the hospital, and the nurse comes in, and like by the time the nurse comes in, he's watching like some old like Lassie fucking show or something. Something else like Omar Epps. One of the things I didn't like, but it's okay because it's Omar Epps. Like he replaced Wesley Snipes. You know, the OG Willie Mays Hayes was Wesley, and he didn't come back for the sequel. And I like Omar Epps, but it's just, you know, when you replace a main figure like that, man, it kind of fucks it up. You know,
but they had all the other hitters in there. They had the voodoo dude. What's his face from the Allstate commercials?
The Cuban Crusher.
That dude, it was hilarious. But yeah, dude, Sheen just straight blowed out. Just I always wanted the haircut when I was a kid. It was a ridiculous haircut. I mean, you should never do this to yourself, but I wanted it, Steve.
It was like Nasty Boys. And like I forgot about the Japanese guy that they brought in. He was giving the Cuban Crusher a hard time because he came back. He had like a pilgrimage and came back, and he's like, he loves everything. Oh, that was a nice pitch. That was a beautiful pitch. And he's being soft. And the Japanese guy, he's like, you got no hole. Like he kept like mimicking balls, like, oh, you got no hole. And because he didn't. And that shit was funny.
He couldn't hit a homer. That's it. Like I remember, it wasn't that part of it. Like once he got angry and went back to Jobu, that's when he started hitting that shit again.
And shout out to Omar Epps, man. I love what he's been doing with your Pittsburgh Steelers.
How dare you, Steve? Yeah. Show some love to Mike Tomlin, but I love an Omar Epps. I'm in too deep on Omar Epps, Steve. So
ooh, you got the juice now. But in 1998, the 60th NCAA Men's Basketball Championship is held. Kentucky beats Utah 78-69. It's the Wildcats' second title in 3 seasons and 7th overall.
And Ashley Judd creamed her shorts. Probably.
Yeah, man. And I'd love to see it happen. And I remember seeing this live, and I was pulling for Kentucky because fucking Utah. Who the fuck pulls for Utah? Andre Miller and Keith Van Horn. I believe there was another guy that got drafted from Utah.
Keith Van Horn with those socks, Steve?
With the Sox. He made that a thing with Rick Majerus as the coach.
Damn, Keith Van Horn. There's a name I haven't heard in forever.
And
or Kentucky for that matter. Are they still good? I mean, I assume they're still good because usually the best college teams don't really go away, but are they?
Well, Calipari's their coach, and he's a great recruiter, but I don't think he's a good coach. I feel like, you know, with all the talent that he's amassed over the years, man, and only one championship to your name, you're not Coach K. You're not even in his caliber, bro. And I hate Duke, but I got to give props where it's due.
Steve taking them to task.
But this championship is their first one without Rick Pitino. And this was Tubby Smith's first season, if I'm not mistaken, because Pitino had already left to coach the Boston Celtics, and he failed miserably.
Yeah, I remember that. That was always something. Like when a college guy would go up to the pros, you're like, I don't know. Usually doesn't work. Ask Steve Spurrier about doing that in football. Be the shit and just go to the pros and just eat big ass dog dirt. Ask Saban too. I think he did that. Didn't he do that?
Saban tried it. I mean, there are few examples. Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely fuck up and just like sort of. You know, usually they just go back down to college and just keep killing it, you know, because it's a different thing. There's a lot of like recruiting, especially, is like it's half the job. So.
I just remember the press conference Rick Pitino had after Boston was sucking. Kevin McHale's not coming through that dressing room anytime soon. Neither is Larry Bird. Robert Parrish isn't coming through that door anytime soon.
I've made calls, okay?
Yeah. I tried, believe me, I tried. They're not returning. But in 1999, March 30th, season 8, episode 21 of Home Improvement. It's titled A Hardware Habit to Break. This is the final season. Harry is selling the hardware store. It comes as a shock to the guys that gather there for man talk and tools. Al owns a percentage of the store and Tim buys the rest. The business starts slow and then grows more than they can handle.
Tough times, Steve. Small businesses being pushed out. This is small time. This is small, like middle America.
Middle America.
This is it.
That's right, man.
We were south of here, just, you know, an hour or two away. Tim's with his boys. He shows up. He's in a great mood when this episode starts. He comes in. Detroit's treating him like just nestled close to its bosom, and he's feeling great. He comes to Harry's, and this is their max, Steve. This is their, you know, juice bar if you're a Mighty Morphin Power Ranger. And Tim's like, what the fuck is going on here? Why is everybody so sad? And turns out Harry's is going to go down under. It's going under, Steve. The business, it's done.
Yeah. I gotta portray Sean's father for another 2 seasons, so I'll be next door on this other show until I get a heart attack and die.
So Harry, he's got to sell. His wife's got asthma. They got to go to Zona, I think, some old people place. And Tim, I mean, again, this is his place. He's Tim the Toolman Taylor. He can't hang out at Home Depot. He's got to come here and hang out with the boys, hang out with his brother, who I forgot about, Marty. Who looks like Doug Stanhope if he didn't do any drugs or drink alcohol. He's one of the boys, Steve.
Totally. He has that face.
And he's, you know, go to McDonald's, do what old people do. Go to McDonald's, have a cup of coffee, talk it out. But Tim, he's not like that. He's got to go from 0 to 100. And if Harry's not going to do it, hey, Al, I love this. He's like, hey, Al, you should buy this place. I'm your boss. I've got all the money. You should buy this place. You own 20% of this, which that must have happened. Maybe that's a storyline, but Al owns a little bit. He's got no money. And he's like, listen, Tim, my girl and I, everything's going good. I might need money to marry this chick, so I can't buy a failing hardware store. I'm sorry.
Well, he suggests that, hey man, why don't you get some money from her?
She's rich.
Yeah, you hit the jackpot, dude. It's a honey pot. Get a little Al. But Al, he's a good guy. He's like, I'm not gonna prostitute myself to own a business. And this is where I'm telling Al Borland, you fucked up. If you can use your dick to own a business, do it.
Man, pimp that Dean.
You know you're throwing it down. It's a win-win for both of you. She gets the orgasm of her life. You get to own Harry's hardware.
Get your gigolo on, Al.
But he won't, because he's a good guy. He's close with his mom. He's a mama's boy. He's not into pimping himself out. And you know, he tells Tim, like, look, I'm not gonna do it. Okay. So Tim's like, look, Harry, is there any other offers on the table? What's the sitch? Like, can we get this done? Like, somebody else buy it? And Harry's like, well, I've only had one offer, and it's a nail salon. So soon you can get a pedicure, but you ain't going to be buying any fucking hammers or nails here anymore.
And I think it was Marty that says, oh, great. A bunch of women just sitting on their cans, just talking all day. And then they look at each other. It's like, they get out of their seats. Like, damn, that's what we do every day.
Shit. So Harry's, dude, I mean, this is what happens, man. Walmart shows up, Tool Mart or whatever the fuck it's called. You're out. And Harry's, I mean, smart. Sell it. Go with your wife. Go fucking Arizona and fucking, you know, smoke some cigarettes. Get a happy ending massage every once in a while and just live your best life.
Yeah, smoke your pipe. And a little side story that we really don't care about. Brad wants to go to Florida because we're back at the Taylor household and he's talking about this brochure and he's telling his mom, like, look, guys are going to be staying in this hotel. Girls are going to be in another hotel. And she's just like, nah, I'm not here for it. And Tim, he comes back with the dilemma of Harry's being closed. Like, man, what should I do? Man, they need a buyer. And Jill kind of stops him in his tracks. Don't you even think about it. Tim's like, give me
I'm
one
not gonna
reason.
buy it, bitch. I'm not gonna do that. What are you thinking? But I am a good salesman, which she does agree with, Steve.
Yeah. And, you know, maybe you can get funding for this place, not from you, but from other possible suitors. So he has the bright idea of throwing a party, but he's going to mask it as like, I'm just inviting the fellas over for free meals.
Yeah, you're just coming over to get some like pigs in a blanket, have a couple of beers, have a couple of drinks. We'll all mix it up. Maybe throw our keys in a bowl. Maybe go into the fucking garage. I got a couple of mats set up and some cool lighting. We'll figure it out. But what he hasn't told any of these people is, and there are a lot of people, Steve, the Taylors, Tim the Tool Man, he's got a lot of fans. He's got a lot of people that want to show up. They do show up. They take advantage of all the free food and drink. But he hasn't told any of them that he's about to lay us. This is like going to like a timeshare thing, but you don't know you're going to get the sales pitch, you know?
Okay. Because initially he tells them, we're here to celebrate America. And Al, he gives out little miniature flags. And then his friend Rock, he's like future Supreme Court capital writer. Fucking, yeah, we're going to organize a secret militia. If so, let me know. Count me in.
Count me in because, you know, I got the goods, if you know what I'm talking about, right?
I like the awkward silence where everybody's just like, oh, okay, bro.
And even one of the other guys is like, man, you know, this is a great time. And usually when you go to somebody's house and they give you all this free food and drink, they're trying to sell you something. It's cool that you're not. And Tim's like, yeah, right. Yeah, cool story. Anyway, you know what pisses me off?
Right.
America and how it's going down the shithole and the corporations are taking over, much like Harry's. And everyone's like, oh, I love Harry's. What's going on with Harry's? He's like, it's going under the tubes, everybody. And you know what? We all need to be good Americans and we need to support small businesses.
And then Rock chimes in again and he's like, so we're calling our unit Harry's, where we're going to set up shop. I know where we can get guns. And Tim's just like, let me just take your drink.
Yeah, dude, get the fuck out of here, bro.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, 911. You're going to want to look in this guy's garage. So I don't know what that guy's name is, but he can't invest in anything. I'm not, unless
Rock.
he's going to be security at the weed dispensary that you open up, I'm good. But everybody does like Harry's is like a community thing. It's like this place. Harry's a well loved. He's loved by the community, and they are all very sorry. But even Eddie, who is Tim's scumbag friend, who may be like a lawyer for the mob or something, and even tries to hit on Jill at one point in a weird way. He's like, dude, Tim, this is not a good business. I'm not trying to, I would love to help Harry out, but I'm not going to invest in a failing hardware store that's 2 blocks away from a Home Depot where I can buy shit 10 cents cheaper on everything. He's making good points. And funny thing involving Eddie at one point, Tim actually tries to coerce Jill into almost maybe fucking Eddie so he'll invest in the Harry's hardware, which, that's more of a, that's not Tim Taylor. That's the actual guy. That's the coke.
That's the peddler.
Wagon.
Yeah, and he's got some Bill Daughtery kind of friends, man. Because before the end of that scene, they turn to Eddie and he's like staring at Jill and gives her a wink. But they put Tim on blast because he's basically like, man, we need somebody to buy into Harry's. And they were like, well, shit, why don't you do it, Tim? Like you can do it.
You the tool man, bitch. Why are you buying? You sounds like you're scared. I love that they pull the Marty McFly where they're like, oh, it sounds like somebody's yella. And Tim's like, don't you fucking say that. I'm gonna buy this place. Fuck you.
Fuck yeah. My wife's standing here. Shit. I got a big ding-a-ling. I buy that shit.
Yeah, Jill, shut up. Stop looking at me like that.
Yeah. And they congratulate Jill. I think it might have been Eddie. Like, yeah, congrats on the new purchase. And she was like, yeah, sure, whatever.
Yeah, and she's considering going to fuck that bald motherfucker also, because she's like, Tim, what the fuck? Because we cut to later, and she's like, hey, what's going on here? You're going to invest in a business? Like, we got 3 kids. Brad's 1 year away from us having to pay his bail for some shit that he's done. Mark's probably going to do some crazy shit. JTT, we're fine. It's fine. But, like, you can't be buying this business. And then to add to that, Harry comes up, and she's like, I think he says something about like, congratulations. She's like, how much did you pay for this, Tim? And Harry tells her it's like 80 grand. And she's like, 80 fucking grand.
What the fuck? And then Al chimes in. It's like, man, why didn't you ask me, Harry? It's like, well, I'll offer you the same deal.
Well, no, because Harry, like, there's a lot of shenanigans because Harry says 80,000. Then Harry's wife is like, but you said you'd sell the place for 70,000 to the nail salon. So there's some shenanigans there. But then Harry's like, okay, I know you're worried about the risk. So, and this is a crazy move on his part as somebody who's retiring and selling a business. He's like, look, I'll put my name on the loan. You take it, but I'm going to give you the money. You try this out for a couple weeks with my name on this $80,000 loan. And then if it doesn't work out, we'll sell to the nail salon. And Al's like, that's when Al's like, hey, why didn't you give me that deal when I asked about it? He's like, I guess I'll give it to you too. So Harry is not a great negotiator and he's not a great secret keeper, but he is giving these guys a hell of a deal.
And they ultimately, they have the place for now. And, back at Harry's the next day, he's having struggles, as you would imagine at first as an owner. And Marty, he's no help because he's recommending the competition to the customers. It's like, oh, Mark, they have it $12 cheaper at that price.
And he's like, then go there, you fuck. And Tim's right there like, hey, Marty, you idiot. Fucking make a sale. He's like Ryan in The Office, dude. This guy cannot sell shit. He's worthless in that regard. But he's Tim's brother. Tim, this was like sort of his agreement. This was how he was going to do it. He's like, me and Al, we're going to own this business. Marty's a loser. He needs a job. He can work here. But he's fucking your business up. Then, and you can tell Tim's not really into this. Like he thought, just like when I got a job at a movie theater, he thought owning a hardware store, somebody who likes hardware shit, would be a dream. It's not. Yeah. And then Wilson comes in And Wilson usually behind a fence, face hidden. Here, he's not behind a fence, but he's always got something, a part, something covering
Us
his face.
partially, like a saw, a mini saw. And they have another friend in the mix. His name is Benny. He's kind of the Cole Brown of the crew. He's always saying dumb shit. And Tim is just kind of like, man, what is it that I have to do? Like, this wasn't always the case with Harry. People loved him. And Benny, for once, he has some logic. He said, well, Harry had working relationships with his customers. They felt like they could trust him. And after hearing this exchange, and Tim says, like, people could trust me. And Wilson's like, I know that, Tim, but other people don't. And this leads to the funniest part of the episode where Marty says, hey, Tim, we need to put up flyers and get on our bikes and pass them around.
Really, Marty? Really? You fucking piece of shit.
And Tim's just like, yippee-ki-yo, yay, Marty, yeah. We could sell lemonade on the driveway and put cars in our spokes with big lollipops, and we could play with the rest of the kids. What the fuck is wrong with you? And you could tell Marty and Wilson are like, they're trying to save character because, like, even behind the mask or whatever, Wilson is just kind of like,
you can even tell Tim like is just sort of he has to like stop himself from laughing because of it.
Oh my god, he killed that, man. Tim Allen, Tim too, man, dude, you did that shit.
But as always, Wilson with the advice. I mean, he's right. He's like, this place was a community institution because everybody liked Harry, and everybody does like you, but they don't know anything other than you blowing shit up on TV. So you got to make this shit work your way. So Tim has some like okay ideas, but you need more people, and he just doesn't have that. So one of the ideas, which is right, is to have like an ad on his show, which is awesome. That's a great idea. But he also has a couple other ideas that we'll get to now because we do cut, we go to Tool Time. He does the ad for Harry's, but he has a couple of little add-ons, a couple of little sprinklings, including a 24-hour hardware hotline like question thing where him and Al are available at any point to go over any hardware related question, which is just insanity, Steve.
For free 99.
I mean, how does this generate any good business for you? Like, people are just calling you to figure out how to unclog a toilet, so
I guess by looking at it in the long run, by being serviceable and being a man of the people, they feel like, hey, this person knows their shit. He cares about, getting us our solution. So maybe he's trying to garner loyalty, customer loyalty. And I'd be remiss by not mentioning that Heidi will always be fine.
Oh my God, dude. So fun. And also in the ad that they do, she has a funny little joke because she's like, every time I go to Harry's, everyone drops everything to help me. And I get it. I would too.
Even if they don't work there.
No, I'll come in and help you. I don't even know shit about hardware, but I'll figure it out.
Yeah, Donatello fixed me this Heidi meter. Like knows your every move. I don't know. That might be illegal, but don't tell me.
But now him and Al have 1,000 plates spinning. They have a show. They have a business that they're working part-time, and they have to make sure Marty doesn't burn the building down. The hotline is working gangbusters, but that means that they're on the phone at all hours, tired or compromised with this phone. So we cut to another episode of Tool Time, which I'm assuming is the next day. Heidi, look, and this is where she looks to me the best. So gorgeous. Shout out to the lady who plays Heidi. And she tries to introduce Tim the Toolman Taylor a couple times. He's a no-show, and she goes back, and him and Al are fucking on the phone answering questions. It's like, you guys, come on, you got a show. We're live.
Oh, it's live, pal.
Yeah, it's already like eaten into their professional lives, man. They got those flip phones the size of Game Boys, and those batteries are burnt up.
Yeah, and I mean, every question under the sun, but they're, to their credit, answering the phone. So maybe this is giving their store, giving Harry's some goodwill, but it's not getting Tim any goodwill from Jill because he's there less and less. She already warned him this was too much. We cut to the bedroom. Tim's just chilling, trying to relax after a hard day of being on TV and answering phones. And Jill comes in, really just ready for some action, Steve.
and her red teddy, and they about
Lady
to,
in red.
and they're about to get real freaky dicky in the Taylor home. And right before she gets to them draws, Tim gets a call, dog.
And it is about you know, cracking one open, but cracking open that blockage in the toilet from whatever the fuck that dude ate last night, you know.
Of all questions to ask at this time. And Tim, he suggests you're going to need a snake or a crowbar to bust that thing out.
What
What have
you
you been
mean,
eating,
buddy?
pal? Yeah.
And
Jill is turned
Jill,
all the way off.
yeah, she dries right up. It sucks into her body. She actually gets dehydrated from that. And no sex to be had that night. Tim's only clearing those pipes, not Jill's. So we cut to the store the next day. And as they do, also they have a conversation after he gets off the phone that this just is too much. Like you're too spread thin. You need to rethink this. So that gets Tim's wheels turning. So we do cut to the next day at Harry's. Marty's working. There's a guy, I think his name's Jeff, the bald dude.
Jeff. That's the older brother, Jeff.
Yeah.
Jeff Taylor.
Oh, that's his older bro. Okay, my bad. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So Jeff's there. He's doing the books. Tim comes in. Marty's at the counter, and Tim's like, "Look, don't worry about all this work. I'm selling this place. We're done. I'm gonna call the nail salon and get this money." So Marty's shocked, and Jeff, who's been going over the books, is like, "Man, that's crazy. You know, you guys actually had the best week ever of this year this week. You guys are killing it. I don't know why you would quit." And Tim's like, "Man, it's just too much. Like, it's like affecting my fuck time with Jill. You know, I'm not getting it in like I used to. So I need to bust nuts."
Before she fucks Eddie.
Yeah, Eddie's about to get some of that, and I don't want that. So, you know, Jeff is like, "Well, maybe you don't have to sell this place. Maybe I'll do a little investment. I'm a savvy business guy, and while, you know, Home Depot is down the street, you guys are killing it. So maybe I take over a little bit. You get another investor. I'll work a little bit." And he basically just wraps it up, and he solves all the problems that Tim had, and they don't have to sell the shop, Steve.
That's what older brothers do, man. And Marty can keep a job because apparently he has a hard time having one. And Jeff Taylor, the older brother, he's played by Tom Sharp. And if you experience these times in the 90s, you may recognize him as the guy in the commercials. And he has that voice, he has that look that you've seen in various commercials.
He could be
Tom
an
Sharp.
expert. He could be a nerd. He could just be a dad. He fills a lot of roles. Is he going to be like a CIA op dude? No, probably not. But, you know, he's going to help you out with a nice investment.
He's going to sell you Tupperware in a commercial, maybe. But also in 1999, various artists released the soundtrack to The Matrix, the music from the motion picture. And man, this is a killer soundtrack. Some shit you can work out to. It's got features from Marilyn Manson, Ministry, Lunatic, The Prodigy, Rob Zombie, Deftones, and of course, Rage Against the Machine.
I was gonna say that Rage song at the end of the movie is just killer. This was just everything. 99 hit. I mean, I was all in on The Matrix. I was up until the third, even the third one I was into, but man, I remember this is another movie going experience, Steve, that I remember very specifically because it was like mind blowing.
It was, especially for its time, man.
Yeah.
And like when he jumped out at the end and the song hit "Wake Up," oh, everything about that shit is electric, man.
And I definitely had this soundtrack too, for sure. This was definitely within the time that I was just buying any and everything I could with like Rage and all those people. It's filled with people that we loved, you know.
Totally, man. Shout out to Rob Zombie too, man. But any bukkake smoothies or takeaways or callbacks?
I got a callback related to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but this is related to the soundtrack, Steve, because, you know, we talked about Turtle Power when we talked about the soundtrack last week, but shout out to a group called Spunkadelic that has a song called 9.95 on this. that is almost like a Roger and Zapp like style Disney-esque song. Like it's palatable for young kids, but it's got that Roger and Zapp like funkadelic sound to it. And I've been listening to it at the gym. 9.95. Is it cheesy? Yes. Is it filled with synth?
That
Yes. But it is hot, Steve. It's hot fire.
that whole soundtrack is cheesy but full of hot fire.
Put your body in overdrive. 9.95. I'm telling you, dude. And they got like the fucking CNC, like just like those like neon colored suits on in the video. I mean, it's hotness. So check it out. Spunkadelic, and shout out to the name too, Spunkadelic. That sounds like some kind of crazy porno or something, honestly, but that's just me being a dirty scumbag, I guess.
Hey, man, that's why we're besties. And
What about you, bud?
just in 1990, Full House is airing another one of those very special episodes. It's called Just Say No Way. And DJ Tanner, she goes to a school dance, and her crush or her date, he leaves. He ditches the dance to go drink some beer with his buddies. She catches him in the act, and she takes one of the beers, mocks him. And while she's mocking the friends, Uncle Jesse, who is doing the music at this event, he catches her with the beer in her hand. And despite her efforts to defend herself, Jesse's got his mind made up, and he's just being a hard ass uncle. He's being what Chris Rock said about Will Smith. You have selective outrage, Uncle Jesse, because one of your other nieces just fucking ran a whole car into the kitchen, and you handle that way better than your oldest niece having a beer in her hand, and she's telling you she wasn't drinking.
You don't want to go down that road, DJ.
Yeah,
Seen it 1,000 times.
Yeah, man. Jeez. But yeah, that's all I got, man.
I mean, but thank God. I'm so glad we got to talk about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles finally. I'm slurring my speech, Steve. I'm so excited. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the movie. It weirdly affected my life because this started me wanting to actually know how movies were made, how that like people turn something from an idea into something that you saw as like a 3D object on screen and stuff. And so in that regard, this is a super important movie to me. And it's just a fun movie that even to this day just stands the test of time. And that's something very rare. So shout out to Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird, two guys who just drew a cool comic about Ninja Turtles. And somehow this happened. That's fucking awesome.
And how blessed are we to be able to experience that at the age we were? Like that was the sweet spot of childhood, I think, man, to where that was so relevant to us. Like we didn't care if we went by ourselves, if we had to walk, and they gave that to us. Thank you, New Line Cinema.
Think of anticipation. But this is it, and then we can be done. But like, think of any movie or anything that you've been like, I cannot wait for that. And this is one of the few times in my life where the anticipation was so high, the bar was so high, and they went beyond that. Like when I walked out of this movie, as a kid, I couldn't stop. It was like that excited kid where like, when they did this and when they did that, I'm still like that, dude. It's that good. So shout out, man. And I feel bad for the director because he kind of got screwed over for making a movie that everybody wanted to see and actually ended up being super successful. And had they let him make it in full, it might have been a little darker, but I would be interested to see what that would have turned out to also, because it might have been fucking super cool.
Yeah, it would have been better to us probably as adults, but this one still holds up nonetheless, man. Please like, share, subscribe, and comment, and tell your sister to back the fuck up, get the fuck up. Please check out Crushgasm with Kendra every Wednesday, B3F Podcast with Joey and Steve, and Don't Worry B Movie with Amanda and Wade. This is Steve G and Maggie with Happened in the 90s.
A GW Chalker.